Good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to my daily Instagram live / YouTube if you're going to be watching it later. We are studying the book of Deuteronomy, and we are currently on chapter 3. So, I guess we'll give a little recap of what we've been talking about. The book of Deuteronomy follows the journey that the Israelites are making from captivity of Egypt into the promised land, or at least that is the plan. So it begins basically where you're following the children of Israel in their journey, because their parents did not make the journey because they were too busy doubting God and his purpose that he had for them. They said that they would rather live in captivity than to explore freedom and to trust God in this journey. So they were punished to not be able to enter the land as God had promised. But since the children were innocent and they did not know good from evil, he trusted them to be able to continue the journey. So Moses is directing them as much as possible through the wilderness and ideally into the promised land. However, Moses himself was also banished from the land because he did not fully obey God either, where he was given simple directions to perform a miracle in the way that God wanted him to perform it, to show how good God's power is, to show how that he is God. And instead of performing it exactly how he was directed by God, he took matters into his own hands and he added a little razzle-dazzle into it. And instead of just speaking to the rock and water coming out, he hit the rock and he basically called the followers rebels. So he was punished as well. So the journey is now going to be continuing from the wilderness and to as close as they can get to the promised land that Moses has allowed. So in chapter 2, we followed the journey from, they had to cross a couple different territories from other people. There was the tribe of Esau, that God gave them strict directions to leave them alone and not to bother them. Don't start a war. You're just going to simply pass through the land, but you're not to conquer it. You're not to take anything that is not yours. For the land of the what are they called? The tribe of Esau. They were already blessed, and that land was theirs, given from God, promised. So then they also went to the land, through the land of Ammon, in same directions. They were to just pass, nothing else, nothing less. But when they entered into the land of the Amorites, they were to destroy the Amorites. And the thing that I found that was very interesting was in verse 20 that it said, that was also accounted a land of giants. Giants dwelled therein in old time, and the Ammonites called the Zemzumans. So for God to give them the directions to destroy them might, and this is just my theory, but it might be related to the fact that the Nephilim was still inhabiting the earth, and God had sought to destroy the Nephilim, for they were the corrupted seed of mankind. They were not fully just man. So you're going to see that in chapter 3, it continues with that similar theme, that the land that he also gives permission for them to destroy in chapter 3 is also a land of giants. So I found that very interesting. So without further ado, let's get started. I basically just summarized the chapter. I'm not going to read it in its entirety because you can do that on your own. So it says Israel destroys people of Bashan. So now they're going through the land of Bashan, Og the king of Bashan. Then we turned and went up the way to Bashan. And Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us, and he and all his people to battle at Edrei. So it's kind of like what happened with the Amorites, where God had hardened the hearts of Siphon, the king of what did they call him exactly? I don't want to butcher the name, but Sihon, the king of the Amorites. And it said that he hardened his heart so that there would be kind of a battle, because then you have permission to defend yourself. You don't have permission to just start a war for no reason, but God gave them permission to settle there. They didn't like it. They did not allow them to pass through the land, so God was like, okay, handle it. I got your back. So it said, the Lord said unto me, fear him not, for I will deliver him and all his people and all his land into thy hand, and thou shalt do unto him as thou didst unto Sihon, the king of the Amorites, which dwelt at Heshbon. So basically the Lord said, I got your back. I'm going to skip around a little bit, and it said that basically they did exactly what God said that they were to do. They destroyed all of the all of the, this isn't the Amorites anymore. They destroyed all of the people of Bashan, and they also took their cattle as theirs, to use for their own prey. They destroyed not only the men and women, but also the children of every city. And that might also sound very intense, but I also wanted to point out that in verse 11 it says, for only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of giants. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. It is not in Rabbath of the children of Ammon. 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits of the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man. So I did the math and I checked the conversion of what that is, and that's basically saying that his bed was 14 feet. So minus 1 cubit of man, which would mean that the Og the king was about 13 feet. That is huge. If we consider the tallest people that walk the earth, they're probably more like on the 7 feet, and that to me is huge already. So for somebody to be about 13 feet, that is clearly an abnormal gene pool. And probably why God wanted them to be defeated, because they were not normal humans. They were mixed. And if you go back to Genesis, I can't remember exactly which verse, but where it says that where it mentions the Nephilim the first time, it explains what the Nephilim is. That the Nephilim is the sons of God, or angels of God, procreating with the daughters of man. So basically fallen angels procreating with the humans. And that was something that angered God. He did not ever intend for that to happen. They never had permission for that to happen. And he sought to destroy all of them. So I know that it sounds intense, but it was all for a purpose. It was for a reason. These were corrupted people. So then it says, so they possessed the land at that time, from here. Well, it explains some of the cities of where it goes to. I don't know what they are in modern day, but the Mount of Gilead, up to the river of Arnon, the cities thereof gave I unto the Reubenites and the Gadites, and the rest of Gilead and all Bashan became the kingdom of Og. Gave I unto the half of tribe of Manasseh all the region of Argob, which Ali Bashan, which was called the land of giants. So that is the land that they had now conquered. Okay, and then it says in verse... Okay, wait, no, we kind of already said that. So they're to take the land for their wives, their little ones, and their cattle, etc., etc. Verse 20, until the Lord hath given rest unto your brethren, as well, sorry, I'm Jamaican, as well as unto you, and until they also possess the land which the Lord your God hath given them beyond Jordan, and then shall ye return every man unto his possession which I have given you. And I commanded Joshua at the time, saying, thine eyes have seen all that the Lord your God hath done unto these two kings. So shall the Lord do unto all the kingdoms whither thou passest. So basically he's saying that in addition to allowing you guys to settle, you are pretty much conquering the impossible. These people are giants. They're 13, 14 feet tall. And I delivered them to you, which you would not have been able to do on your own. They probably would have destroyed you if you didn't have me behind you. But because I am the all-powerful God, now you see that anything is possible when I am with you. And that not only that, but I am a God of my word, and that everything that I say is going to happen, is going to come to pass. And he proves that time and time again. So I believe that, like I said, although it sounds intense, it sounds violent, the conquering of these people's land was all for a purpose, to basically build the character of the Israelites, to understand how powerful God was. So God was using all of these situations to kind of build up and get them, prepare them for the rest of their journey. That's very important. So then, I think the other thing that I wrote that was really important is, okay, now Moses, remember that he was banished from the promised land because he didn't listen. He didn't do what he was supposed to. It says, Moses says, I pray thee, let me go over and see the good land that is beyond Jordan, that goodly mountain and Lebanon. But the Lord was wroth with me for your sakes. Mind you, he's still blaming it on the people. He's saying it's for your sakes, not that I did something wrong, but it's because of y'all. And would not hear me. And the Lord said unto me, let it suffice thee, speak no more unto me of this matter. So basically, God has already made up his mind. Moses is to not enter the promised land. But here's what he will do. He'll let you see it. So he says, get thee up into the top of Pisgah, and lift up thine eyes westward and northward and southward and eastward, and behold it with thine eyes. For thou shalt not go over this Jordan. So you cannot cross over, but get on the mountain and you can see what you're going to be missing out on. And then he ends with saying, but charge Joshua and encourage him and strengthen him, for he shall go over before this people, and he shall cause them to inherit the land which thou shalt see. So they abode. So basically he's saying, you're not gonna be the one to go, but Joshua will. Joshua is going to be in charge. So give him that motivation. Make sure that he knows where you went wrong so that he doesn't make that same mistake, and encourage him so that he can carry out my plan exactly how it's supposed to be carried out, as you were supposed to. And that is it for chapter 3. I'm going to go ahead and open up the discussion to the comments section so that we can further discuss chapter 3 in detail. If I missed something or if there's something that you would like to add, now is the time. Shervin says, what promised land? That land had its own people. That is correct. The land of Canaan was inhabited by the Canaanites. But who are we to question this narrative of who God wanted to give that land to. So the thing is, we are so prideful as humans that we think that it is necessarily a bad thing that a person or a group of people is to move from a land that they once inhabited. But like I said, God is going to use you whether you like it or not. So the people that were inhabiting the promised land had a very, very important role as well. They were to prepare this land for those that were to come. So God was using them as well. It's not like they were just discarded. They had their purpose, and more than likely they fulfilled their purpose as long as they didn't worship other gods and whatnot. So you don't really know if that's necessarily a bad thing, whether they were driven out of their land or not. But the pride of us being so attached to what we have in this world that isn't even ours, it's temporary. This is God's world, and he has a bigger plan for us. So don't get too caught up in the pride of, well, it's my land and it's, I was here first. Sometimes that is not how the story is supposed to go down. Okay, Corey says, I would have to disagree. God do not need to use humans as a chess move to get his point across. And you're totally entitled to believe whatever you want to believe. However, there's many examples in the Bible of God using people for his purpose. And it says specifically what God did and why he did it. So, it even said it in Deuteronomy, where it said that God hardened the heart of Sihon the king. So if God is not using people, then why in the book, in the word of God, does it say that he does? So, agree to disagree. Okay, hold on. Let me scroll to the bottom. Okay, Shello says, God showed them time and time again that by obeying him, they would be able to accomplish his purposes with them. But the contrary would happen if they disobey. Very similar to what happens to us today. Absolutely. And that's why I think that it's so important for us to even read the Bible in the first place, because it has a lot of principles that we can absolutely apply to our daily lives today. It's still very much relevant. Yes, it provides historical background. Yes, it is the word of God. So if you want to get to know who God is, obviously it serves that purpose. But also, history repeats itself. There's a lot of warnings and a lot of examples of what we are to do and what we are not to do. And we have the privilege of having a book, a manual, an instruction book of, oh no, my Bible ripped, darn. An instruction manual of how to move about and navigate through this world. So, use it at your discretion, of course. Do I think that Goliath was Nephilim? I believe so, because I don't know, I'm starting to see, and mind you, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a preacher. I'm just somebody that is reading this book, and I'm reading it out loud on Instagram Live to basically study it. So you're watching me study it in real time, and also to get those of you who are passionate about reading this book as well to contribute to the conversation so that we can kind of navigate it together. But I am no expert at all. But what I'm starting to notice is a pattern for the ones that God chooses to be destroyed. And it seems like these theme of giants being slain, or it being okay for God to give the other humans the okay to slay them. I strongly feel like that's probably because it was Nephilim related. And when the Nephilim first appeared, it said God wasn't happy about that. So God had a plan, and it seemed like he was going to use the appearance of the Nephilim to his advantage. And that's probably why he even let the Nephilim happen in the first place. Because, I mean, do we really think that God couldn't stop the fallen angels from corrupting the seed? Obviously, that's something that God could have punished, or, I mean, God could have prevented. But he didn't prevent it for a reason, and I think that the reason is to show people how powerful he is, that they're able to overcome giants and to build that kind of confidence, to realize anything is possible with him. So Goliath more than likely was Nephilim. Don't quote me on that though.